guys, Nthefastlane here. In this video I'm going to show you how to clean out all the carbon and even replace the PCV valve. It's actually like a module, but the PCV hoses on top here get clogged up also. I'm going to show you how to modify them. There's a way to modify them so you can pull more vacuum and get the crankcase pressure out of the block, because that's what's causing it with this system since the valve cover gaskets have already been replaced. Now basically the valve cover gasket's been replaced and the PCV valve system is clogged. And how you know is you start your engine, you get it up to where it'll start leaking a little bit, shut the key off and crack your oil cap on the valve cover. If you hear any kind of compressed air exit out like then you know for sure that you got too much crankcase pressure and it's not being pulled by the PCV system. You can purchase the items in this video by clicking Shop This Video underneath the YouTube description. Also in the top comments, I always pin it. It'll say Shop This Video. If you're on my website, you can click Shop This Video underneath the video. So right here, it looks like we have E10 star bits. You got 1, 2, 3, and then this section will come off and this section will come off. And this is these two right here, the two big ones. This is your PCV system that loops back around to the back side of the passenger side cylinder head. That's where the PCV module is. Now, it's not this little guy. It's a big piece like this. It's an aluminum and it has a nipple coming out and then a bigger nipple coming off the other side. Now, another thing from GM, they noticed that there was a problem with the PCV system on these, even the 3.6. This is the 3.2 liter. And basically how they went around it is you can buy this, it's called a PCV hose or hoselet. This section right here, this neck coming off, this has been replaced. They're about 60-ish, maybe $60 to $100. I'll have all this in my shopping cart. And the cap and the neck is all a part of this PCV relief system that GM pretty much created. Alright, we got those off. Now pretty much just pull these hoses off in the back here. Now you're going to pull this whole unit straight forward. There we go. Right here you got O-rings and everything. So this is the part that gets all gunked up right here. As you can see, this carbon buildup. You got all kinds of carbon in here. We're going to clean this out. But this guy right here is where most of the problem is. There's two holes. Now upon inspecting this, if you look here, these are the PCV hoses right here, these barbs right here. And if you look in there closely, you can see all this carbon buildup. There's a lot of it. So these diameters have pretty much closed up. And if you look at this one right here, that's a lot. That'll reduce 50% of the flow. So these two need to be cleaned out. We're going to hit them with some brake cleaner. I know that's not like the plausible thing for a rubber hose, but this is all one piece pretty much right here. You can crack it open, but then you're going to have issues. So it's all one piece right here. You can go like this right here too and kind of pull this one out. So this one comes out just like this. They separate. You're going to want to go ahead and change all these O-rings. Look how gunked up it's getting on both these holes. I mean, that's really bad. So we'll clean this system out. And we'll clean this out, get all the carbon out, get a brush down in there if you can. Just get it really cleaned out. Now I'll be hitting this up with brake cleaner, but I also have a really long skinny bolt with some threads, and I'll just stick it in here, and wow, I could barely get it in there. Look at that. Look at all the carbon that I just pulled out of there. So this is definitely causing a problem. Huge problem. And I can't even get that bolt in there. It's so clogged up. Wow. It's a lot of carbon. So clean this out thorough. Get a long bolt that'll fit all the way in there. It kind of zigzags a little, so this one must go a little bit like this or something like that, because if you look here, the ports come in the middle and then they probably go wide. So you're not going to be able to get the bolt 100% through there, but if you can just start the process by cleaning it and get some good flow in there and blow it out with some air, you just need a lot of flow. The best tip I can give you is take your brake cleaner, stick the hose down in there with the little straw, put the bottom flush with the surface, fill it up, let it come to the top, and then smack it as it's coming out, and all kinds of carbon will come out. So do that a bunch of times. Put the hose in, fill it all the way up, and then smack it on the bottom as it's coming back out, and chunks will just start coming out everywhere. So do that about a dozen times, and eventually you'll get this whole channel. Basically it goes like this and then kind of V's out. It'll get cleaned out that way. Now if you look right here, you have two 532 holes right here. But if you look real closely, those little pinholes right there and right there, those are actually for this nipple right here. And they get clogged very easily. And GM, the pretty much designers of it, had to redesign this. So they put out a bulletin, pretty much a PDF file, and you need to take these holes right here and drill them out to 532. So you got to take a 532 drill bit, put it right over those little holes right there, and drill them out. And I'm not making this up. Here's the actual GM PDF release, and it shows right here, if you look at number 13, it shows the big holes on one side. So you got the big holes on one side, which we already have that, and then the small holes, which is number 13. Now if you read this text, I don't know if you can read it, but I'll read it for you. It says, on the bottom side of the primary vent hose adapter, enlarge the two existing 1 millimeter 0.4 thousandths of an inch holes, number 13, which is that, to 4 millimeters 0.2 thousandths of an inch. Ensure all debris is removed. Now 4 millimeters in inch terms is 532. So take a 532 drill bit, and if you don't know what a 532 is, actually get a bunch of drill bits and take the bottom end, not the part where it has the cut in. Take the bottom end and put it in the original hole, the bigger ones. If it fits in there nice and snug or just a little loose, then that's the size you need to drill out right here. So you're gonna stick this guy right there, drill this one out, come to the other side, stick it right over that little hole, and drill that out. Try not to cut into this middle section, just pretty much put the tip right on those holes. Should act as like a little notch template. Drill those out, clean it out, and that's pretty much one part of the step of the PCV fix. Look at all that carbon that was coming out already. So that's what you want it to look like, just like that. Now go ahead and hit it with some brake cleaner, clean it all up, and we're on to the next step. We can go on to the next piece, and you can get just a bolt or whatever, put it in there. It'll go in a certain amount, right to about there, because it has a little bit of bend. So do that. There we go, there's a lot on there, a lot of carbon right there. And then come to the other side and do the same thing. Oh yeah, there's a lot. And this is what's causing this problem. Look at all that. So do this and then hit it with some brake cleaner, clean it out really well, and then we'll be on to the actual PCV module and hose. Now that the hoses are all cleaned out and the passageways, take a little bit of brake cleaner on a rag, and we're going to clean out this port. Put a little bit of brake cleaner on here. You just want it to seal right. You're going to change out the seal on that device. Mine's good. Mine's actually pretty plump seal, so I'm not going to change it out, but I'll have all this in the shopping cart. Now if your intake is clogged up, I already had this off prior and it wasn't bad. You can just pull out these two bolts right here. You gotta take off your intake plenums. I actually have a how-to video either now or later, I'm not sure when I'll release it, of doing the valve covers. So it'll show this whole intake manifold process and everything. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove these O-rings right here. I'll include these tools. Everything in this video will be in the shopping cart. So you're gonna wanna pick this one out. Yeah, this one's pretty much flattened out. Come in here like this. Oh yeah, these are on their way out. Yeah, those are pretty flat, so those need to be replaced. So I got all the O-rings on. You got 2 on here, change them out, and 2 on here. And now we're going to put the logo up top, just like this. And we're going to gently push this in. Now, I'm probably going to put a little bit of oil around here. These are a little bit fatter O-rings than the original, but we'll get them to work. So by the time you get it fitted together, and this is what it's going to look like, if you don't line this up in the hole, you can always take a flat head right here, put it in between, and just give it a little space just to get the 2 lined up. Now the next step is to remove this throttle body. There's 2 ports here that lead back to the PCV modulator or module, and we need to pull it off and clean it out. So there's no sense of doing this whole job without taking care of every aspect that could cause a problem. First thing we're going to do is take this hose clamp off, this one, and we're going to slide these intakes down. We got a clip right here, pull out, and then we got a hose right here. This is the overflow. You can get clamps in there, but sometimes you can pull them off. I've already pulled this off. Yours probably won't be this easy, but you need to elevate this because this is the overflow for the radiator. If you go too low, it'll start coming out everywhere. So just tuck that hose somewhere, elevated. Now, once that's done, we got a vacuum right here. And we have another hose right here. And now we'll be able to take off, looks like we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you don't have a E10 star bit, you can always take a 8mm, the ratchet side part with the star, and you can put it on there and it should fit. It's actually not going to get in there though, but 8mm, you can crack them loose like that. So try the 8mm if you don't have the star bit. So we'll go ahead and remove these. Now that we have that all off, we're just going to give it a little wiggle and it'll come off. When we got big O-rings, you can replace these if you wished also. But you can see all the carbon buildup right here on the intake and stuff. I'd clean it out at least on the surface and the surface here. Now we're going to come in here and clean these ports out really good because they actually go down through here, possibly here, and this is another one right here. Now the next part is go ahead and pull the intake manifold off. I was debating whether to or not, but in order to get to the PCV module in the back here, it's a lot easier. So all you're going to do is you're just going to take out 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, 2 E10s right here for the power steering reservoir, and then right here there's a vacuum bolt, and then right here there's 2 bolts on the side right here, and then all you do is kind of pull the reservoir back a little and then slide it this way and out. Now make sure all your vacuum lines are still connected other than these ones, and sometimes pulling off the intake you'll pull this vacuum line right here. I would suggest while you're in here is replace these with some vacuum line. Just pull them apart, get new vacuum line, cut them to the same distance, and right here on the fuel pressure regulator on the back here, replace that little vacuum line hose piece also, because sometimes you'll pull and it'll just come out and then your fuel pressure will be running skyrocket. Another tip is while you're in here, you might as well change out your gaskets right here. These O-rings, you can get the kit. I'll have all this stuff in the shopping cart. So everything for this job, including tools, will be in the shopping cart. So go check out my shopping cart. I'll tell you what, guys, I am drenched. I mean, completely soaked. It's super hot out right now. I mean, my skin is just soaking wet. But this problem happens with every CTS. This is my personal car. It's 3.2, and it happens from 03 all the way to 06 and newer with the 3.6 liters. There's absolutely no information on this problem out there. I haven't found very little, so I figured I'd definitely go ahead and put this video together because there's going to be a lot of people with this problem. To make your life a little bit easier, go ahead and take off this strut right here. Now, I don't have 2, so the hood's going to come down when I do this, but just pop this pin back a little bit and pull it off. Do the same with the bottom. And one-handed. And I'm gonna set this on the other side. Now to set this on the other side, you just pretty much reverse it, put it on the ball. See if I can do this with one hand. And just push forward, and then you can turn this one. You can turn it around the head, set it on there. There we go. Locks in. So now I can work on the battery side without having serious problems. Now we're at the back of the valve cover on the passenger side, and if you see this clip right here, the coil pack, I'm trying to kind of hold the flashlight. This clip right here, gonna go ahead and remove that, and then this hose right here, if you look at this hose right here, this goes straight up to this double hose that comes on top of the intake. That's the PCV module. Now, I don't know if you could see it, but underneath this, right there, that silver, see this hose coming down right under the nipple right there? That's the modulator. Now, there's 2 bolts. All right, so if you look down here, you can see that bolt right there. There it is. There's that bolt. And there's one, and I believe, yep, there's another one right there. So 2 there, and those are gonna be E10s. So the E10s right there. 2 of those on one side, and then if you come, we're on the right side right here. So we got 2 right here, and then there's 2 more on the other side. Take those out, and then the whole thing will pull up. It's an aluminum box basically with a nipple on top and a big port for this. We got to clean this hose out right here too. Right where the V is where there's a lot of problems also, where carbon builds up. So check this out. This is the PCV module, and look at this. Look at that carbon. I'd say that's about 60 to 70% clogged shut. So you're definitely going to be getting a lot of crankcase pressure with that problem. So we're going to remove this. This is the whole unit here. Now here's that vacuum hose that we pulled off. This goes down to the PCV module. And right here is where they were talking about it building up a lot of carbon. So you need to, they even were showing cut it and inspect it, and then probably rewrap it with some kind of silicone or seal it back up. But they were actually showing in the PDF file, give it a cut every like 1/4 inch or so. I kid you not, like cut the sides, inspect, blow it out, because I guess it's nearly impossible to get out. And I guess maybe this might even be the PCV valve itself. I could be wrong, but just clean it out real good with some brake cleaner, and make sure you get a lot of airflow through there. So what I would suggest is take this valve, this little port right here, and smack it on the ground real hard all the way around. And it breaks up a lot of carbon, and stuff like this comes flying out of the hose. Keep doing that, and then blast it with some brake cleaner, and you should be good. But right here in this general area is where you get a lot of carbon stuck. And there's only one pipe feeding the PCV module, so you got 2 coming off the intake right here, and then once it hits here, if it's clogged, it's no good at all. You're going to build up a lot of crankcase pressure. So here's the PCV module, and as you can see here, it's full of carbon, and on the bottom it's all carboned out too. So we're gonna have to clean this up really good. Now it looks like right here they just took some RTV and ran it around and then put this plate over it, so you can see the RTV right here from the factory. Now if you're gonna pry this off and you don't want to get any more work, don't pry it off. They actually put this plate on here like this, and it's heat welded. So this is 100% heat welded on. A piece goes on and then they heat stamp it, so it can't come back off. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill and tap it with a thread, and then I'll tap it with a bolt through here and a washer, and I'll Loctite it. So this one will be sealed. But this is, if you want to hack into it and clean it and make it reusable, then this is the method. Go ahead and smack it off until it breaks. It's only on this one spot, so I don't think anybody's ever broken one of these open. Now the reason why I broke it open is because this flap right here, this baffle, actually broke off and chipped off, and I didn't want any loose pieces in there, and you see this loose piece right here. So this is part of the problem also. These are about, I'd say, $200 and some. They're real expensive. So I'm going to clean all this up, re-RTV it, and if you look right here, look at that. There's just no way to get that out. I mean, you can put something down in there, but look, that's 100% seized off. Look at that carbon. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be that way. So I'm going to clean this up really good. I'm going to drill it and then tap it. And we should, this is kind of like a catch can if you think about it. Alright, so it requires a 4.2 millimeter drill bit. I don't have one. A 532 is roughly 4 millimeters, so this will be just fine for this. I'm going to use a M5 by 0.8 tap for a M5 little bolt. So I'm going to run an M5 bolt. Get a little WD-40 in there on the threads, and you want to get this level, so kind of back up and then start. It's probably easier to do it from the side. Alright, we hit all the way at the bottom. Now we'll back it out, clean it up, and test the bolt. So here's the threads. Really nice threads. The idea is to drill a hole right here in the center plate, and I'll put a little lock washer on there so it keeps it down, then we'll silicone it. But here's the bolt, and it goes in real nice, smooth, hardly any resistance. That's what we're going to be working with. We pretty much turned this into an aftermarket catch can. Alright, so I decided to go with 3/16, so I'm going to drill this out. There we go, 3/16, and now this bolt should fit in there real nice. Yep, it's a perfect fit actually. So let's take it out and see how it lines up. So we get this piece like this. Oh wow, look at that. Perfect lineup. Take the bolt, and we'll tighten it right in there. I'm going to go ahead and actually hone this out just a little more because it's kind of catching. There we go. Alright, let's see what we got. Line it up. There we go. Check that out. Aftermarket. Now I'm going to put a bigger washer right here, and before I put it together I'll put a little bit of RTV, gray RTV under there, put the washer on top, and then tighten it down so there'll be no air. I'll silicone all this and we'll be good to go. Now make sure you clean this off really well with parts cleaner. You don't want any aluminum shavings in your engine. It'll destroy your rod and main bearings. Now my original idea was to cut out a flap from a exhaust manifold gasket, but it's a little stiff. I was going to put a bolt through it like this, through the bottom, and it was going to sit just like that. Now I think that'll build too much pressure though, because it almost acts as a reed valve to build compression off like an air compressor, and I don't want to do that because the material used, even though it's brittle, I'll take a smaller piece, even though it's brittle, it's pretty thin. See how thin that is? So I got like a plumber cap and a thickness, it's a little bit thicker, actually it's about the same size, this is just rounded off. So this is what I'm working with. I'm thinking about cutting out the same size square, and then I'll run the bolt through, put some Loctite on it, tighten it, and then it'll act as a reed valve. I think if I use the stainless, it'll just build too much pressure and it actually won't even serve a purpose. It'll actually act as a blockade. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out to the same dimensions of this, drill a little hole in it. I'm going to have to widen this hole up a little bit because I'm using like a M5 Now a quick easy tip to punch this out without a drill bit is you can get a socket, this is a 5mm, and push the bolt that you're going to put through there, just stick the socket over it, put it on concrete and give it a couple of smacks. It'll punch out a nice hole for you. Now I have the bolt and a washer in there, and you just line it up. And now I'm going to put a lock washer in here, right there, and then we're going to put some red Loctite. This is the high strength Loctite. So we're just going to put some of this right here on the threads, and then put the nut on top of it. We're just going to give it a mild tight until we crush the lock washer, and then that's just reassurance that this bolt isn't going to fall down into the block. You don't want this falling down into the block, because if it does, you're going to be in big trouble. So this is just extra precaution. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some ultra gray RTV, and I'm going to outline this entire pretty much catch can. So I'm going to outline this whole thing. Now one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some right here on the back side where that washer is going to go. That's why I got the bigger washer, because I don't want any leaks. There's actually no service plate originally. Just like that. Take our bolt and lock washer. There we go. I'm going to get the Allen key for it and tighten it down, and we just pretty much made a pretty sick universal catch can for a Cadillac with the OEM part. Now the last step before we install it is we got to run some RTV right here. Cake it on pretty thick, and then we'll set it on top of the block. This is what it looks like, all RTV'd up, just like that, all the way around. And the middle doesn't really matter. So the first time I tried fitting this in, I had a little fitment issue. This bolt right here, it comes really close to the block, so you're gonna need a really flat bolt. So I went ahead and put some Loctite, took the lock nut off of there, or the lock washer, and that's about as flush as I can get it. I might have to grind it down just a little bit. I'll still be able to get a wrench on it, but that's how they make them. That's why they seal them off like that and put them real close so you can't have access to them. Here's the PCV module back in here. There you go. Alright, so you can see the space you have between the block and the head. Now, there's the bolt right there. You can see that. There's a little indentation, but they don't give you much room. Here's the endoscope down in there, and if you can see, look how close that bolt that we had put on the back is. That's the bolt you can see on the back. There's a little indentation, and I made sure that I went down to the bottom over here, right here where the bolts are. These are the bolts you got to get to. I made sure that down in here, I don't think I can get to it, but anyhow, you can see how it's mating with the block right there. See how it's mating with the block? I got better angle earlier, but I'm just one-handing it right now, but it's mating with the block. So what I would do is I'm going to put in the shopping cart, I'm going to put actual flatter heads on those bolts. I only had what I had laying in my bolt parts drawer. So I'm going to make sure I get some good parts for you guys so you don't have this problem. Alright, so I have the two-way to one-way PCV pipe. Make sure you clean that out thoroughly, and I'll make sure air can flow through it without any restriction. But right here, you can see it's connected to the top right there. Next, I'll connect the little nipple right here. I had cleaned that out earlier also. And then we got to put the intake back on. And that's pretty much it. We're going to put the top piece right here back on. It's actually right here, this guy. And you can replace this. I'm going to have all this. This is actually a pretty cosmetic little O-ring. It goes this way and then it goes up top also. So I'll have it all in the shopping cart. Pretty much just goes just like this. You line this guy up right here. Set that in there like that. And it lays like that. Now the bolts, the 4 bolts on top of the intake, right there, there, and there, 17 foot-pounds. So I have everything tidied back up. Got all my hoses ran. Got this PCV vacuum line running to the smaller nipple on the PCV. Intake, throttle body, coolant lines, pretty much everything the way you took it off. So now we just got to get this back in there and take a little bit of oil or spit, and we got to get this lined up right here too in this hole. So you might have to space it out with a screwdriver just to get this part on the bottom to line up, but other than that, it's kind of a pressurized deal. I'm going to see what we got here. Yep. Looks like we're in there. And on that one. And I just hand tighten these, just a nice snug. Nothing crazy. Looks like everything's in there. Now we got to hook up the vacuum lines. So we got the two big ones right here. And you might want to cut the tips off. I cut mine because they were splitting. So I got fresh hose. You can cut off at least an inch, inch and a half, and still get them to stretch on there. Okay, we got those up. Now we'll take this one right here, and this one goes on the smaller one. This is the smaller nipple on the PCV. Shove that one all the way up. And then the last one is going to be this fuel guy right here, which is... there it is. Mine's broken. I got to get a new one. This one just goes right here. This one's kind of just stopping the vacuum leak for now. Okay, so I got the vehicle running. It's been running for quite some time. The radiator fan's kicked on. I have the AC on, so there's like a full load. I've been revving it with $3 grand and just letting it sit. So if anything, it would have at least 20 to 30 PSI of crankcase pressure in there when I release this oil cap. That's what happened before. Right before I pulled it in here, I released it and it just shot out like a bullet. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack this cap. It's all the way up to its running temperature. And if before it would blow off. So right now when I crack this, if it doesn't blow off, then the problem's 100% solved. There we go. Nothing. No smoke, no nothing. I pretty much drove it all around the block. Got it really heated up. And let's see here. Here's the oil cap. Let's pull it off. Nothing. We are really good to go. So pretty much this is customization of fixing this problem, and it's a custom job that's going to last a lifetime.